Hello, my name is Connor Coleman, and in this review I'm going to be reviewing Nikon's entire digital SLR lineup, starting from the D40 and going through the d40x, the d60, the d80, the d300, and the d3. Now, I only have the d300 here, but I can assure you that I've thoroughly tested every other one of those digital SLRs. Now, I also have another review too that goes along with this one, and it's about lenses, and it goes from beginner lenses all the way up to professionalized lenses. So if you have any questions about which lenses you should get with a certain digital SLR, then you might want to check that out. The first SLR I'm going to be reviewing is the D40, and it is the best camera you can buy if you're a beginner just getting your first SLR. I actually recommend it more than the D40x, the D60, and the D80. And the reasons are because it's a lot cheaper. Most people buying their first digital SLR on a budget, and it's always best to buy the cheapest SLR for your first SLR. It's easier to use than those other digital cameras. IQ is also pretty much the same as the D40x, D60, and the D80. It's not much different. There are a few differences, but not many. The only real big significant difference between the cameras is megapixels. The D40x, the D60, and the D80 offer 10 megapixels, whereas the D40 only offers 6 megapixels. And that may seem like a big difference, but it's really not. The only time you'll ever see a difference in the amount of megapixels is if you print out really large pictures, about 2 to 3 feet wide, which most beginner photographers don't print out pictures that big. The D40 even offers some features that are better than the D40x, D60, and the D80. For instance, it has much better low light performance. Higher ISOs are much more noise-free in the D40 than they are with the other cameras. So the D40 is not all that bad. Just because it's cheaper doesn't mean it's worse. The next camera that we're going to go on to is the D40x, and the real thing the D40x offers is just more megapixels. If you're going to be printing out reasonably large pictures, 2 to 3 feet wide, and you want a pretty cheap body, then get the D40x, that's for sure. If you want a little bit extra, something that a camera that has more features than the D40 and the D40x, but it's in the same small compact body, then the D60 is the right camera for you. Now the D60 is a little more advanced than the D40 and D40x, and I don't necessarily recommend it for people getting their first SLR, but if you're familiar with digital SLRs and plan on using a lot of the features that the D60 offers over the D40 and D40x, then it's definitely worth the money. One of the features that the D60 offers is called active D-lighting. What active D-lighting does is when it's bright and sunny out and when there's very dark shadows, it brightens up those shadows to bring out the detail. If you're a type of camera person, type of photographer who likes to control a little bit, play with the controls in the camera, and use the camera more manually instead of automatically, then the D60 is a great camera to buy. The next camera in the lineup is the Nikon D80. Now, although the Nikon D80 has the same IQ as the D40, D40x, and D60, it does offer a couple features that can be very useful to some photographers. For instance, the D80 offers a much better autofocus system, 11 points over the D40, D40x, and D60's 3-point autofocus system. If you want a better autofocus system, then buy the D80. The D80 is compatible with all Nikon lenses, whereas the D40, D40x, and D60 are only compatible with AFS lenses. If you ever plan on buying non-AFS lenses, then definitely get the D80. For those of you who are advanced photographers and want a camera that has a lot of horsepower and is faster and more versatile, then the D300 is the camera for you. The D300 is really a good camera for sports and action. It shoots 6 frames per second with the body alone, and with the optional grip here, which comes separately, you can get 8 frames per second, which is just great. The autofocus system is a lot better than any camera. It's actually a professional autofocus system, the same one in the D3, which is great. It has a lot of features over the D80 and the rest of the cameras. Has a bigger LCD, has a much larger viewfinder, but it comes at a much more expensive price. This is definitely not a camera you want to buy if you're a beginner, mainly because this is a completely manual camera. There are no automatic features on this camera like you'd find on the D40 through the D80. There are no scene modes either, which is something you'd find on most compact cameras, and which you can find on the D40 through the D80 as well. So this is definitely not user-friendly for someone who's a beginner, so that's why I don't recommend you buy something like this for your first SLR. But for those of you who are moving up from, say, a more beginner SLR and want something that's faster and better, then the D300 is the camera for you. The next and last camera on the lineup is the D3, which is Nikon's flagship model. The difference between it and all the rest of the cameras is full frame. It has a sensor that is equivalent to 35mm negative film. And what that really means is that its sensor is much larger than, say, the D300s or the D40s or d40x's or d60s or d80's sensor. It's the only Nikon with a full frame sensor, and it's called FX format, where all the rest of the cameras are called DX format. And the FX format makes the D3 much more expensive, but it also gives it much better high ISO performance, which means you get a lot less noise in low light situations. It's a great camera for news, sports, and photojournalism. It's the best camera you can buy for that. It shoots 9 frames per second, 11 frames per second in DX. It's very fast and packs a lot of horsepower. Nikon's top-of-the-line flagship model, so it's the best you can get. Now I'm going to go over the prices of each model right now, starting with the D40. D40 is about $400 with a lens with it, so it's a great price for the camera. D40x is about $150, $200 more than the D40. The D60 is about $650 with a lens. The D80 body alone is about $750, $800. The D300 is a big jump in price. It's just the body alone without this grip thing on the bottom is $1,800. With the grip, it's about $2,000. And then the D3 is even a bigger jump in price. It's about $5,000 just for the body alone. And this has been a review of Nikon's entire digital SLR lineup.